Hey everybody! Today we're going to make a 100-year-old recipe for Turkish bread, and I'm actually making it twice. So let me tell you a bit about why that happened. So I've had this recipe for probably 10 years and I've done nothing with it. It was something I saw on YouTube and it just looked so soft. And all I did was cut and paste the directions that were in the bottom of the YouTube video. No context. So I completely lost the recipe, had absolutely no context, and just thought, that's fine. I'll carry on. The other thing was the difference in measurement from imperial to metric. I think that was off. So by the time I got to rolling it out, I realized I was in trouble. It was actually a much firmer dough than was being called for. So I went to YouTube. I found the recipe. I found what it should have looked like. And I remade it after I made the first loaves. And the what I like the best about this is whether it's a Turkish recipe or not, it's actually a really good Italian loaf. It's got a very crispy crust to it. Um, it just wasn't what I was expecting. And I don't know, I may try to make it again, but it definitely wasn't what I was expecting. I will make it though, like this is great for any pasta spaghetti dish. It would work wonderful with that. It has a great flavor and the sesame seeds work really well with it. But yeah, I was sort of expecting more of a really soft bun type of bread, and it definitely wasn't that. In addition, um, making it properly and putting your fingers in the dough, you'll see later what that's about. I don't think I pressed deeply enough. The other thing was when I did go to make that recipe the second time, I reduced the amount of flour. And if you bake bread often enough, you'll come to understand the right consistency for the flour. And that's really what I was looking for, was the soft dough that, you could just push out with your hands. And so I reduced the flour to about 3/4 of a cup from the original recipe. Anyway, I've talked long enough. Have a look, see, get your take on it. As I mentioned, very good Italian bread, great for pasta. Not really what I was looking at. Nothing has surpassed the Amish bread yet. So I will continue to look. And as with all yeast, this water is warm. We're just going to sprinkle this in and give it a little stir. Mix that up. Now the next thing they say to do is to add a cup of flour. It doesn't say bread flour, so I am not adding bread flour, but just regular all-purpose flour to this. So I'm going to add this gradually. I really enjoy watching recipes from other countries. They don't generally talk through them at all, and but some of the things I've seen they just look absolutely delicious. But I just was looking for a break from the Amish bread, which is actually quite good, but it is very sweet. You can taste that sugar right through the bread. So just looking for something a little different than white bread. And we'll, whoopsie. You can see I'm just kind of stirring this in. The next thing I'll do is just put this on the stove just to set with a cloth over it. A nice tea towel. Set for 20 minutes. And see what happens then. I'm assuming I'll have some kind of a rise there, but we will see. I can't even honestly recall what this bread looks like, and so this will be interesting. There's obviously a reason though that I kept it, and it struck my mind as something I wanted to do. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I got a little nervous, started looking through my YouTube saves to see if I had anything for this, and I didn't. So as it turned out, I had this on my warming center since it's a metal bowl, and it did raise, so that's or rise. So that's really really what I wanted to see. The next step here is to add another 200 milliliters or 7 ounces of warm water, and along with 3 cups of flour. So at this point, I'm going to move it all into another bowl and get started again. So I've had it in for its first rise, and I have just been kneading this. It's almost ready. So I'm going to separate it into 2 pieces and then get it onto the baking sheet that's lined with parchment paper. All right, so I've cut the two pieces apart here, and I'm just going to roll it out and give it a nice loaf shape. Now again, I don't remember the recipe itself, and I'm assuming this was done in a loaf, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So I ended up actually kneading that into the ball that you see there. I'm going to put the tea towel on top and let this sit for 20 more minutes. So I have both of the loaves on the baking sheet. They're going to rise for another 20 minutes. Once that's done, I will have finished this, the topping, which was 4 tablespoons of cold water mixed with 3.5 tablespoons of 1.5 tablespoons of flour. And I'm going to put an egg yolk and some boiling water in here. And then on the top, it will go with sesame seeds. So, all right, so I've taken this out. It's been 20 minutes and a little bit longer. I've added the 3.5 tablespoons of hot water. Now I'm just going to get the egg yolk and add that as well. So I'm just going to step away here for a second, and hopes are outside. There we go. I'm going to put that in just like that. And now we're going to give this a stir. All right. And there we are. They haven't risen that much, so we'll see how they rise in the oven. So this looks pretty good. It looks, I wanted to leave it in a little longer, but I was kind of afraid because I started to look up some of the words in the recipe, and I found the original recipe. And it's at this point that I realized this didn't turn out like it was supposed to. So I completely remade the bread again, and when it got to the point of adding all of the flour, I decided not to add all the flour, and this is the result of the next time I made the bread. All right, so the bread has rested now for 20 minutes, and I've rolled it out here. Now I'm going to cut it in 2. What I didn't do was add all of the flour that the recipe called for, because when I made it the first time, it was really too doughy. It needs to be a little on the loose side. Next is to actually just flatten this out. Once we get it into a nice, I probably won't be able to do this that well, but it gets into a very nice oblong loaf. This is going to be a flat bread. Like that. All right, so this is left to rise for 20 minutes, and now we're going to put that egg wash. There's an egg wash that is made with just the egg yolk, some flour, and water, and that goes over top of the entire surface. and of both loaves, but I think I'll just do it on the one loaf first, because then what happens is using your fingers, you basically make a lattice work on the loaf. So we'll put this aside for now, and I'll go ahead here. So we're going to just down this side as well, and then across the top. And these loaves are a little smaller, likely because I used less flour. So I'm only going to go up the middle, and we'll leave it there. Well, there you have it. I think if I do this again, I'm going to press the dough down right to the baking pan. As you can see, this has risen enough that it has basically undimpled all the dimples. The outside feels very firm. I have to wait until it's cooled down a bit until I can cut it open. We'll check then. So I've made this two different ways, one as a loaf and one with the actual recipe. And I don't know how they get away with the, you know, being very soft as a cloud. I'll try it again. It's a good tasting bread, but I certainly don't get the same results that I saw. The crust is actually quite firm. It's reminiscent of like a French loaf. Again, it tastes good. It's just, it's not as advertised, so heads up to that. It looks very nice, and I think if I had done the dimpling a little bit deeper, that would have stayed. But I don't know how cooking it for 30 minutes would get the results that is shown in the video. And I don't think that adding the 3 whole cups of flour after the first cup would have worked either. So I don't know, just a heads up. Sometimes those recipes work online, and sometimes you have to make your own adjustments. So this one looks really interesting. I think I'm going to try it again, and I'll make some further adjustments. And once I get it just right, I will post the recipe. So there you have it. My little adventure with Turkish bread. Did it turn out to be more like French or Italian loaf? I couldn't tell you. It was a crunchy loaf. I think more along the lines of an Italian loaf, and it would be great with pasta. So it was a win-win. I still have a loaf of the flat version still frozen in the freezer, and I'll save it for the next time I make spaghetti. Until then, thanks a lot, guys. If you like anything that you've seen today, whether it was the first version of the Turkish bread or the second or the recipes or my misadventures, become one of the tribe. Like and subscribe.